Well, hello everybody. Chanel Latimer here, and yeah. Um, there's something that had come to mind that I think may stir up some an argument, or uh people who don't agree with me on this particular thing. And I think, those of you who watch this video who know me know that I am not by any stretch of the imagination a divisive person. I really believe in getting people together. And in fact, I mean, when I was a musician, when I was a band leader, I prided myself on being able to put together situations where sometimes, not my quartet, but other gigs where sometimes the musicians really didn't like each other, but they did the gig because I was the one. I was there. I brought everything together, and so anyway, so I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who disagree with me on this, and maybe there's even going to be an argument. That's all right, whatever, you know. But I will say that I'm not just pulling this thought from, it's not theoretical, like I just pulling it from the air. I'm basing this off of my own personal experience, having grown up, a certain way. Well, in this case, poor. I grew up poor, but just personal observation. Let's not forget, I have traveled all over this country. I've spoke to thousands of people, as during my days as a musician. So, this is not an isolated thing, or thought that is okay. The thought I have is not based off of an isolated example or thought. I'm basing this off of a wide range of what I have experienced, including growing up. Okay, so what am I? What am I prefacing here? Okay, um, okay. So the thesis is this: um, poor people remain poor not because of the system. Hmm. Oh boy, there's going to be some hate mail tonight. Okay, okay. So poor people don't remain poor because the system is holding them down. At least not entirely. Yeah, maybe there's some little elements of that. But likewise, poor people are not poor because of lack of effort, or because they're lazy, or, whatever other stereotypes there may be out there. Now, just like there might be some examples, like there could be like little bits of the system is holding certain people down. The same thing can be said that, yeah, some people are poor because they're lazy. I mean, uh, but I'm trying to speak to the mean, like what is okay. So what do I mean by that? Like, poor people aren't necessarily poor because of the system. Um, you know, uh, it's also not lack of effort. Okay, so this is what I mean. Um, if it was the system, then certain poor people would never have been able to rise above what they came up, how they came up. And let me give you a great example. Okay, now this is an uncle who has passed away. He's a great uncle, actually. He passed away like 30 years ago, like in the 80s. Um, uh, but now here's the thing. He was born. First of all, he was a black guy. All right, black man. So he was born in the 19 teens. Okay, he grew up in the 20s and 30s, and so if you want to talk about a time when the system was against you, as a black man, if you were, you're coming through in those times, that's the system against you. You had an entire I don't have to give everybody a history lesson. I mean, we had an entire population of people that were uh you know under persecution, held back, and it's historical fact. I don't have to exaggerate for that. Okay, so we all know how those decades were, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, most of the 60s. All right. Now, so my uncle, my great uncle, who, he grew up in he went through all that, as a black man, and he passed away a wealthy man. And he didn't pass away wealthy because he was sitting down complaining about the system all the time. All right. And yes, he was hardworking. But here's the thing. All right. So, yeah, poor people might be hardworking people. But here's the thing, as I was just alluding to. Are they working hard at the right things? Right? Are they working hard at the right things? So, I don't think it's a question of people, not having a good work ethic or whatever, and that's why they're poor. I think it's more that they don't have a plan, they don't have certain knowledge, or they don't have the education on certain things to know how to put that hardworking work ethic that they have to point that in the right direction to allow them to take advantage of things that will help them earn wealth. That's what it really boils down to, I think. And I base that off of my great uncle, because if anybody had an excuse for remaining poor, it definitely would have been him, because he grew up, he was born in the poor South in the 19 teens. All right. He had racism against him, and whatever policy, a political policy that was against black people at the time, and, societal things, and all of that against him. And he passed away wealthy. Okay. So here's a little data point. And I forgot the source of this. So, please feel free to fact check this, whatever. But there are studies that show that people's income, or wealth status, or whatever you want to call it, is greatly influenced by the 5 closest people they spend the most time around. So in other words, if you hang out around some millionaires, guess what? You're going to become a millionaire. If not now, maybe later, you start incorporating what you hear from them. Likewise, if all you do is hang around poor people, guess what? You're going to be poor. But I have a different spin on that. It's the same thing, but I say it differently. If you want to be something, hang around the people who are that, or who have achieved that and are successful at that. Okay? So case in point, I wanted to be a musician, a jazz musician, whatever. So so I hung around other musicians that I knew were really good musicians, with programming now. I wanted to become a good programmer. So what did I do? Well, once I've learned certain things, like certain basics, I started participating in hackathons and hanging out at meetups for programmers and just making friends with I hung around programmers. And it helped make me become better, so financially, the same thing. Like, I'm looking to have a better financial future. So I've been listening a lot to some of the things my boss tells us, but also, I'm thinking back to when I was a musician, and all of the people I met. Okay, well, first of all, as I think I mentioned in earlier videos, my fan base was mostly wealthy. So I was constantly talking or exposed to people who had a lot of money. But the thing is, back then, I wasn't really listening to what they were saying about money and finances, and how to, grow wealth or attain wealth. Or what, I was I was too busy having fun signing autographs. But But now I'm thinking back to some of the things they would tell me, or I heard them say amongst themselves, or and I'm incorporating that, and so I was always hardworking. I was a hard worker. I still am a hard worker. But the thing is now, I'm trying to direct that work ethic and hard work in a direction that will bear fruit for me in that set of circumstances. All right, and the same holds true for poor people. Like, so poor people, I don't think it's so much a question of the system. The system. I think that what you really need to do, if you're poor, is to gain information. All right. And you say, okay, well, that's all well and good, but I don't know any millionaires I could talk to. Yeah, but have you heard of YouTube? Or, the internet? You got a smartphone, or any means of obtaining information? Then you can look up what those people say. Because if you want to find it, it's on the internet. So I'm not accusing anybody. I'm not saying anybody's lazy or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you want to if you want to obtain anything, then you need to direct your efforts towards that thing, and gain as much information as you can to help make you successful at it. That's it. In fact, that's really all I get from when I think back to what wealthy people had told me before, or what my boss is basically saying. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to say the same thing, but really all it boils down to is gain information and then put your efforts towards taking advantage of that information. That's it. That's it. It's two things, man. But so anyway, uh, like I said, I'm sure there's going to be people who disagree with me, and that's fine. But like I said, I'm not coming to these conclusions from just an like living in a bubble, or my isolation over growing up. My experience growing up. No, I when I was a musician, I have performed in 40 of the lower 48 states multiple times. I've been back and forth this country all over the place. So it's not just my experience growing up poor, okay? I also have the experience of my family members. I gave the example of one of my uncles, but I have family members who grew up poor, and a lot of them, at least right now, are on the on the side of the fence that the system is keeping them down. And I was on that side of the fence pretty much all my life until I'd say the last year or two, or certainly the last 6 months, And a funny thing happened. I realized once I stopped complaining about the system, I stopped having so many problems paying my bills. you know, because again, it boils down to those two things. You gain the information that you need from the people who have already done that thing or are successful at that thing, and then you just take advantage of that information. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but in all sincerity, I hope what I said helps somebody, or spurs some thought, or is at least food for thought. Because, like I said, this just because I'm saying it doesn't make it law. I'm sure there's points to disagree with. That's fine. But I'm also the kind of person I don't, I adapt. And if I see something's not working, well, then let's change and to something that is working. And complaining about the system for decades wasn't working for me. So anyway, hope that helps somebody, and I'm sure I will get plenty of nasty emails, but hey, whatever. I don't hardly check my email anyway. Catch you later.